Brissett takes the snap. Play fake, looks over the middle, throws wide open. Harrison caught for a touchdown. What a first half for Jacoby Brissett and Marvin Harrison Jr. They've made it look easy on that drive and on that touchdown pass. 9-0 Cardinals.
That was Marvin Harrison Jr. from Jacoby Brissett in the route heard around the world, at least the ones who had access to Monday Night Football. That was Dave Pash on KMVP. And yes, Marvin Harrison putting Deron Bland in the dirt, making CeeDee Lamb look up at the big screen like everyone was in America and thinking that was embarrassing. That's the first touchdown of a 27-17 victory by the Cardinals. And Nick Shook, look, we don't put the first touchdown as the first call too often, but that was memorable and I think typical of a night where the Cardinals offense absolutely dominated for the first three quarters of this game, including a great night for Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah, and I think that it was the right choice for the first clip because of what you just said. A great night for Marvin Harrison Jr. A great display of what Marvin Harrison Jr. can do for this Cardinals offense when you feed him targets early and often, and a perfect opportunity for him and Jacoby Brissett to prove that they do have a strong rapport against a Dallas defense that continues to be a sieve, that could not resist anything the Cardinals wanted to do offensively, and absolutely contributed to this result. A great night for the Cardinals, and also very important for them that they held on because of what they'd gone through in their 5-game losing streak, losing by a combined margin of 13 points. It was not to be tonight for them against the Cowboys. They were going to ride out with a victory.
Yeah, it got squirrely late, as it does for the Cardinals, because, look, the first 6 possessions of the game, and this took us all the way to the fourth quarter, were long field goal drive, touchdown. They had a punt blocked that went for a touchdown for the Cowboys, and then another touchdown and field goal after halftime. And then the Cardinals started to do what the Cardinals do, which is get a little tight in the fourth quarter. But ultimately, the Cowboys offense was not up for the fight. We'll talk about this game, what it means for both teams. Obviously, both of them have a long way to go to possibly make the playoffs this year. But what does it mean for Kyler Murray's future? What does it mean for the Cowboys trade deadline activity on Tuesday? Jerry Jones says that they have a trade in the hopper. We'll see if he still wants to make that trade when they're sitting there at 3-5-1 in 13th, by the way, Nick Shook, in the NFC. So that's a lot of teams they got to pass, and they're 2.5 games back, which is a decent amount. This is a show where, like I said, we'll talk about this game, but we're also going to get into some of the big news of the day, some of the early trade activity, and look ahead to the trade deadline. So appreciate everyone that's joining us on YouTube. And yeah, if you're listening to us, it's a last minute preview before we have that trade deadline fun. Man, watching Jacoby Brissett, we'll start there, Shook. The offense just looks better. And I pointed out that Jacoby's not giving this job back, on social media, and every dumb response is, oh, yeah, well, he's not going to play the Cowboys every week. Like, hey, they're playing an easy team is the dumbest guy you can be on Twitter, or girl.
Yeah, absolutely.
And by the way, he just played the Colts. It's like we've watched multiple games. He played the Colts and he played the Packers, and he looked much better than Kyler in both of those games too. And so that was all going into it. But I think you saw it with the under center running game, which worked tonight, and just how easy it looked for Jacoby Brissett that he makes sense in this offense.
Yeah, tell me you haven't watched the Cardinals without telling me you haven't watched the Cardinals, because since he's been in the lineup for them in place of Kyler Murray, their offense has just been a different beast. Now, it hasn't produced wins, but it has visually looked so much better, and that carried over into tonight. In fact, if it didn't look like it has in the last couple of weeks tonight, I'd be concerned. And I think at that point you would think, all right, well, then Kyler's going to be back in here soon enough. But it was just as good as ever. And the difference being is that they they produced points. They were able to capitalize on this matchup. And what he really does is he steadies the ship. He gives you the veteran presence to make the right decisions in the right spots, keep you on schedule, account for a running game that has largely not been very effective since they lost their top 2 backs. It was effective tonight, but that's also indicative of the Cowboys defense. And most importantly, find open guys and deliver to them. Now, he wasn't perfect. He missed Marvin Harrison on a really nice route that Marvin ran on third down. He threw it wide of him into the sideline. They ended up, having to punt on that drive. But largely, he was on target and on time and capitalized by looking at his top 2 targets, which is Marvin Harrison Jr. and Trey McBride, and powered that offense forward. So I think you're absolutely right. I don't even think it's that hard of a decision. I think it's a tougher PR decision than it is an actual football decision for Jonathan Gannon.
Yeah, and look, Kyler Murray's been their franchise quarterback. They did not pay him that money. We spent a whole segment about it when we thought that this move was coming, that his future is very much up in the air. I'd be surprised if he was on the team next year. I thought he would be active for this game, but he ends up being inactive for this game. Really, the sequence that I will remember most from this game, Shook, is coming right out of halftime. And that's what, the coaches have been watching what the Cowboys are doing in the first half. And, okay, what do we want to do to attack them? First play out of halftime, 50 yards up the seams to Michael Wilson. Easy peasy. Next play, 17-yard run by Bam Knight, I believe. And then the very next play after that, we got a Trey McBride touchdown. Am I right?
Yes.
I'm adding it all
by the way,
up
was
together.
way too easy. Way too easy.
I'm doing that off the top of my head. I'm like, was it only 3 plays? Yes, that's only 3 plays. Let's actually listen to the McBride touchdown.
Waiting for the shotgun snap on 1st and goal from the 11. Brissett has the ball. 3-step drop. Looks right, throws right in the end zone. Caught for a touchdown by Trey McBride. Jacoby Brissett again on time, on target, and the Cardinals extend their lead to 23-7.
I mean, it's ridiculous. 3 plays, 79 yards. You don't see that in the game book too often.
No, and especially not from this offense, which had struggled to find consistency. But that's a simple corner route run by Trey McBride against safety and Marquise Bell, who lost leverage, and all you have to do is put it on target. Like Dave Pasch described it perfectly: on time, on target. Like all you got to do is put it in that little catch radius to the outside. Trey McBride's a great tight end. He's going to come down with that. That's what Brissett can do for you. He can make those 2 passes that you need to have the explosive play and the touchdown pass and make it look elementary, make it look routine. And that is why, we look at this situation and we think, yeah, I think this is going to be Jacoby's job.
Yeah, the Cowboys defense right now is one of the worst in NFL history, I believe, on 3rd downs. They're giving up over 50%, and they kept that going tonight, stopping the Cardinals 7 for 13. Got a comment here. Kyler can't see over the offensive line in the middle of the field. He's never going to be the guy. I do think that is a real thing, that he doesn't see the middle of the field great. I don't know if it's just because of his height or what it is. He doesn't throw to the middle of the field enough. He improved on that at points last year, not so much this year. I don't want to go into the whole, is Kyler a franchise guy? I think he could have greater success in his second spot, but I do think it's setting up for this to be the end of his Cardinals run. We talked about how easy that drive was. I have to take it back to the first half. And all these numbers by the end of the game, which are really good for Jacoby Brissett and the success rate and the running game, it was all good. But there's so much worse after the 4th quarter, where they did get stuck in the mud and the pass rush started to show up for the Cowboys. Ezeraku had a good night. Odigizua had some pressures. Jadeveon Clowney had some good pressures, and they actually go punt, turnover on downs before the end of the game. So the numbers aren't as good there. But through 3 quarters, it was almost perfect. And the moment that I might remember even more than the Marvin Harrison touchdown was a certain offensive lineman. If you listen to this next clip on ESPN, I think we can get it through the censors here on YouTube. This is after the Jacoby Brissett rushing touchdown when they just marched down the field.
Back Knight behind him on 2nd and goal from the 1. And it's a quarterback sneak. Brissett drives the legs forward off the left side and into the end zone for the Cardinals touchdown. What a bounce back drive by Brissett and the Cardinals. They lead it 16-7 with 49 seconds to go till halftime.
Sorry about that. The sound, of course, on the television copy. But yeah. Do you remember exactly what he said, Shooky?
It's too effing easy, is what he said.
I know. He was like, it's too easy. It's too And I'm like, is that Jacoby Brissett screaming that? I don't think so. I think it was Evan Brown, if I had to guess. It was
the
one
mics
of the
were hot. The mics were really hot tonight.
It was
when
one of the offensive
fumbled.
linemen. That was amazing. Yeah. Just another night where you're just like, man, 1 or 2 defenders are not going to save this Cowboys defense. No. But what was surprising tonight was how flummoxed Dak Prescott and the running game were for sections of this game. Now, there were various reasons why. First drive of the game, they looked great, just like they did a week ago in Denver, was it? And then don't score a touchdown on their first drive. This time they decided to go for it on fourth down. That became a trend throughout the night, but they're not quite finishing drives, and it's why MVP chatter after 5 weeks always is so silly to me. Dak Prescott, I thought, was playing as well as any quarterback in the league through about 5 weeks, but he hasn't been as good the last few weeks, and the passing game wasn't really in rhythm tonight against Arizona. What did you see out of the Cardinals defense?
Well, I'll tell you what, one debut made a huge difference for them up front. Walter Nolan made his professional debut after missing the first 8 weeks of the season. He completed that defensive front. Now, it's not going to show up in the box score. It might show up a little bit in next gen stats. I know when I checked it in the fourth quarter, he was responsible for 1 of 2 run stuffs for the Cardinals on the night, the other one being Mac Wilson. He had a pressure, he had a sack, and it's the stuff in between. It's the plugging up of the gaps. It's making the Cowboys dedicate multiple guys to him in the double teams that really opens everything else up for this front, which also includes Josh Sweat and Calais Campbell. And it felt like they were getting after Dak quicker than they probably expected. Almost kind of led me down this road where I thought, does Dak no longer trust his offensive line? I just think he never got comfortable. And when he's trying to survey the field, they played stickier coverage than I expected too. Will Johnson had a really good night overall. George Pickens, I felt, was invisible for long stretches in this game, and that's a credit to the Cardinals defense. So I think they put together a game plan that perfectly countered what the Cowboys wanted to do, and it all started up front with the arrival of Walter Nolan to really complete that front.
That was my guy all throughout draft season. I just thought, this guy moves different. Just like one of those defensive tackles that if you just put together his best 25 plays in college, I think he was like a top 5 pick, top 3 pick. Like he was as explosive and exciting as any defensive player in the draft. Now, there were consistency issues on tape. It wasn't always there in terms of like full-time motor, but man, you could see the aggression that he played with tonight. He had a pass defense too, and it's not like he dominated this game, but adding him to a good mix where Calais Campbell finishes out the night well, and then we got to give Josh Sweat his love, probably his best day as a Cardinal, and he's had some good days. 7 pressures according to PFF, and they weren't cheap ones. 2 quarterback sacks, 2 quarterback hits, and then 3 more hurries on top of that. So they were really good, and maybe to your point, Dak Prescott had reason not to really trust his offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, when you're getting a combined 12 pressures between Josh Sweat and Zaven Collins, and then you're getting another 3 from Calais Campbell, all according to Next Gen Stats. Calais Campbell, who's facing a double team at almost 50%. I think you're making a difference against this offense. And the Cardinals probably went into this game realizing, look, if we stop them offensively, if we limit them offensively, we're going to win this game because we know their defense can't stop a nosebleed. All we have to do is get Dak uncomfortable. And they did. They absolutely did. And it helped the back end. And it excites me because Budda Baker has been with this team forever. And he's gone through the highs and lows of the Cardinals under Cliff Kingsbury and with his own health and everything else. And to see a guy like Will Johnson play well and then Budda being there to congratulate him and they're out there recovering fumbles and all kinds of stuff, it just warmed my heart that he was able to have a game that he could enjoy on a primetime stage.
Yeah, and great point by one of the guys in the comments. Keep it coming, pointing out that Josh Sweat and those sacks came on 4th down as well. Troy and Joe, who I love more than any broadcast, we're getting on my nerves a little bit, just continuing to mention how if the Cowboys had just taken 3 points, if they had just taken the 3 points earlier in the game. So in the first quarter, they decided to go for it on that first drive that I talked about, didn't get it. And then there was another drive in the second half where they decided to go for it on 4th down, was, I believe, early in the fourth quarter there. They did take a field goal on another opportunity. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, okay, I know they didn't get it, but can we stop acting like it's so horrifying that a football team tried to score touchdowns when they're saddled as teammates with the worst 3rd down defense in NFL history? They needed to score touchdowns tonight. There was nothing that they had to believe that their defense was going to get stops. And I know that they did get stops in the fourth quarter, but they still needed touchdowns because they ended up being down by 2 scores. So the whole game would have been different, obviously, if they go for it. But I just was like, just calm down. Like, give the Cardinals credit. Their defense won on those plays. That's the bigger factor, is that the Cowboys offense needs to be great for them to win, and they didn't. They weren't.
It's a classic case of whataboutism. Like it's just, oh, hindsight's 2020. They didn't get the 4th down conversion, so they should have kicked the field goal. You know it after the fact, but you're absolutely right. They needed touchdowns in this game. They know they need touchdowns in every game in those situations, and especially as the deficit grew and they needed to make up ground, because there was no guarantee that their defense was going to get even a single stop and give them a chance to get back into the game. So yeah, it's frustrating. It's also kind of surprising to see an offense like the Cowboys, who, yeah, we can understand why they struggled against Denver. Denver has a good defense. They're a good football team. Mm-hmm. I think that we discount the Cardinals, and especially their defense, because of their overall record and the way they've lost games in close fashion, especially in the fourth quarter, the way they've played in the fourth quarter. But
I love that.
It's also not like, it is actually very shocking to see the Cowboys offense, an explosive offense, struggle this mightily in key downs. Like all night, key downs, they don't know where to go. They don't know what to do. Dak Prescott steps up in the pocket and he double clutches because CeeDee Lamb runs his route too far before, coming out of the top of his route. And then by the time he throws it there, the ball takes forever to get there. It gets broken up. That's not what we're used to seeing from this offense this season. And I think a lot of that is a credit to the Cardinals defense.
Yeah. And they got healthier on the back end with Garrett Williams as well as Nolan. So they're getting healthier. Max Melton left with the cornerback with a concussion, but then Denzel Burke comes in and has a huge 4th down stop for them. We have a great comment, which is that the Bills and Cardinals have both lost by a combined 13 points this season, like in their losses, yet the Bills are 6-2 and the Cardinals are 5-3. The Cardinals are not bad. I think that's a good way to put it. They're just not bad. And if you just take away, I think, the craziest loss, certainly of the season, I really believe it's one of the craziest losses that I've covered in my time covering the league, that Titans game. It was just insane. If you even just forget the other close losses, the 49ers and the Packers and the Colts, which were all good games, and they lost them, and they could have changed with 1 or 2 plays. But if you just take that Titans one away, which is fluky, they're a 4-4 team. And that's kind of what they are. That is what they should be. I also don't want to give them too much credit either. Like you saw tonight, that they're not a perfect team, but they have a scoring differential on the season now that they won this game by 10 points of +9. Like that is not the profile of a team that should be 3-5. So I always root for teams to kind of like get it turned around and actually be what their record says they should be. And so 3-5 is better. Unfortunately, it's a long way to go. Like I said, they're 12th in the NFC, and the Cowboys are 13th in the NFC. Both of them have plenty of hard games left on the schedule. The margin of error for both of these teams is still so small. And so I think it's going to be up to Jonathan Gannon to just like look good, even if they end up at 7-10, just look like a good unit the rest of the season.
And to close the circle on the whole conversation at quarterback, this is why Jacoby Brissett is going to continue to play quarterback for them, because they are in a difficult division, and their remaining schedule, just on a quick scan, looks really tough. It's Seattle, San Francisco, Jacksonville, and Tampa Bay, the next 4. After that, it's the Rams, Texans, Falcons, Bengals, then to close with the Rams in LA. None of that is easy. I don't even care what you could say about the Bengals defense. I know they're the worst defense in the NFL. That's fine. None of those are the Titans. None of those are the Saints, who they've already played those games this year.
Yeah.
If you're going to look good, you're going to have some stability on offense. If Jonathan Gannon, by the way, year 3, got to hang on to his job.
I think the NFC West is actually the best division in football. I know you would put the NFC North out there, but man, the Rams and the Seahawks are awesome. I think the 49ers are really tough out. Both those divisions are really good, and there's just no easy games. But part of the reason why I think that is because the Cardinals are sneaky good. And yes, they got another Monday Night Football win over the Cowboys. The Cardinals are now 4-10 on Monday Night Football all time, which is insane. They've only played 14 games in the history of their franchise on Monday Night Football. It just shows how under the radar they are. All 4 of their wins on Monday Night Football against the Dallas Cowboys.
No way. That's incredible.
I was actually at a Cowboys-Cardinals Monday Night Football game, and it was the one where the Cowboys all leaned at midfield, and Jerry Jones made sure he got a camera on him to have a big smile during their version of, honoring Colin Kaepernick and standing up for social justice in a very Cowboys way. It was a memorable night. Okay, let's talk trade deadline. So if you're listening to us on audio, we love you. You're what floats this whole boat, but we're going to take a quick break with you. If you're watching us on YouTube, we love you too. Frankly, NFL Daily, we get big numbers in the ears, and we underperform on YouTube. We need to do better. So I don't know what it is, but we need to do better, and that's on me. That's on you, Shook. And we appreciate everyone that's out there. I should send out another tweet after I throw the ball back to you, saying, hey, come join us. But we appreciate it, everyone. Let's talk a little trade deadline. We had a trade today. Should we lead with that trade? It's a minor trade today, but it does matter. Let's actually do our segment that it's time for Who Delivered, presented by Uber Eats. And you know who delivered, Nick Shook? Howie freaking Roseman. When I wake up the day before the trade deadline, here's what I want at 6 in the morning because I'm waking up early. I want Jalen Phillips to the Eagles for a third-round pick before I even get my coffee. Great trade by the Eagles. Not only did they get Jalen Phillips, a good young pass rusher, for a third-round pick, but the Miami Dolphins are going to pay a good amount of the remaining salary he has, which is $6 million, so that they could get that third-round pick. What do you think about what the Eagles did with that trade for Jalen Phillips?
I think that one of the topics that has flown under the radar with the Eagles this season, yes, they're doing well overall, and we focus so much on the drama with the passing game and everything else, but I think it's been the changes on defense, the departures that they had in the offseason, and the relative no-name guys that we've expected to, fill in. And I think they've started to come together in recent weeks. Jalix Hunt makes a play here and there. Moro Ojoma makes a play here and there. But ultimately, it lacks the splash, the pizzazz, the Josh Sweats, the Hassan Reddicks of years past. We're not going to go with the Bryce Huff because that didn't work. But ultimately, they needed a guy like this. They needed a difference maker. If I had to pick a team that was in the market for an edge rusher, it was probably them, because they lack that type of splash player, and they get it now with Jalen Phillips. So I think it's a fantastic move for them. It really fills out their front seven a lot better, as long as he can stay healthy. That's always been the big question mark with him, especially over the last 2 years, is he's had injury after injury. But it felt like, we know how the Dolphin season is going, kind of a wasted season for him, especially coming back from an injury last year. This is the perfect pairing. Gives him an opportunity to pursue success on the field with a new team. It gives the Eagles another force on the edge that they desperately needed. And it also, the Dolphins get a little bit back, after firing Chris Greer, that this is one of those big moves that we thought might come, and it comes for them.
Yeah, it did. And we'll get into what that could mean for the rest of the Dolphins season in a second. But I do want to stick with Howie Roseman. Think about what they've done in aggregate. So over the last week, they've traded for Michael Carter, who's like a serviceable cornerback from the Jets. They traded for Jair Alexander, bit of a dart throw to see if he can help out their team. And heck, I guess he's going to make their team, but is he going to be on the field? And if so, is Adoree Jackson or Keely Ringo getting traded over the next 24 hours?
I don't know about getting traded, but neither of them have proven that they deserve a place in the field.
I don't know if there's enough spots on the roster. I guess they could go to the practice squad if no one else picks them up. But in aggregate, look, they are aggressively trying to improve two positions. Their pass rush just has not been the same, but they're adding Brandon Graham, don't forget, too. And Jalen Phillips hasn't been great this year, but his pressure rate is actually quite high. He doesn't look as good as he looked pre-surgeries, but he's a young player on his fifth-year option, coming off an ACL and then an Achilles. And I think it could be more than a rental. I could see them potentially working out a deal with Jalen Phillips where he gets a 2-year contract at the end of this deal, or he's in the building and he likes what they're doing, and they give him a really good 1-year contract just to push the decision out a little bit more, like a bet on yourself, 1 for 17 type of deal, and they'll have that information. And if he does leave and they want to play the compensatory pick game, and that'll be up to them and their signings and everything, like that's a good move too. So I just think it's a position of real weakness for them on the edge. You mentioned they just haven't been the same. And appreciate Bana Artist here who said like and subscribe. Appreciate you.
Smash that
we
like
don't
button, yo.
we don't ask to do that. We got a lot of people watching now. If you're watching, yeah, give us the like, give us the subscribe. We appreciate you. Man, this Dolphin season though, Nick, when they fired Chris Greer, we haven't really talked about this on the podcast. It made me think, okay, maybe Chris Greer didn't want to make the types of moves that the ownership wanted to make before the trade deadline, and now they're going to make those moves with interim GM Champ Bailey.
Yeah, I think that was what was telegraphed to most of us, because we had heard prior that they had received calls and had turned down calls on a number of players, and Phillips was one of them. I also consider the tenure of Chris Greer. He had been in that position for nearly a decade. He took that job in 2016. He hired Adam Gase. He hired Brian Flores. He hired Mike McDaniel. Of course, he's going to feel an attachment to the roster that was there because he constructed it and probably believed that it could still produce a winner. So he's going to have a tough time parting with anybody. And it also felt like the right time to make a change for a team that is headed nowhere as it currently stands. What it did, in my mind, was open the phone lines back up. Jalen Waddle, you're interested? Make a call. I even thought about, who's Jerry Jones got a trade, in the bag for? I was like, shot in the dark, Bradley Chubb. Like, I don't know, like just continue to go down the list of Dolphins that are out there. Right.
Okay.
Like, so, you go with Phillips as well. He's on the move. It seems like the right thing for this franchise at this time, as unfortunate as a fire sale can be. If you're a fan of that team, it feels like that's what the Dolphins probably need to do.
Yeah, so we got a question, where's the Breece Hall or Jalen Waddle trade? Look, the majority of trades happen in the last 30 hours or so before the trade deadline. Now, people get so excited about it. It ends up being 8 or 9 or 10 trades total. We've already had a lot of trades just in this season leading up to it. That I'm not counting that towards the total, but that's going to diminish it. In the end, it's never as much as you think. But Breece Hall does make a lot of sense to me. We're going to go through some players to keep an eye on. But yeah, Waddle and Chubb, Bradley Chubb specifically on the Dolphins would make sense. And I think it was telling that we saw from Ian Rappaport, our guy at NFL Network, that they would listen to offers for a big-time price. And I don't think you're trading Jalen Waddle for less than a first. I don't think it makes a lot of sense to trade Jalen Waddle. You need to have good young players if you're trying to get better. But we have a question: who would be the most likely buyers for Jalen Waddle? It's a team that would be like willing to make a huge splash.
But I have one, but I don't think it's going to happen because they're in the same division. It's the Buffalo Bills. Yeah, the Bills could absolutely use him, and I think Miami, if they honor Mike Tomlin's principles, would not trade him within the AFC East. It's a really attractive trade beyond just this year. He's under team control through 2028. He's got a cap number of only $11 million next year. So this is perfect for a contender who doesn't have a lot of cap space, who needs to make a big swing, maybe a little desperate, maybe feels like their title window is closing, and that is the Bills. But they're in the same division, which is why I don't think it happens.
Right. They're like every team that I looked for wide receivers in general, there was a reason that it didn't make sense. Like Seattle, I could see trading for a receiver, although Torrey Horton looked pretty darn good on Sunday night. But they're about to pay JSN. Like they don't need two guys at that level. Philadelphia is always going to be in the mix for great players. It would be hilarious because there was a big Waddle or Devontae Smith debate back in the day. Why not have both? You get AJ Brown involved in the trade, get him out of there. No, I don't. That's fantasy football. At this point, I'm fully expecting AJ Brown to stay on that team. The other team that came to mind was the Patriots, who I think would invest in a big time receiver, but again, in the division, hard to imagine that happening. Before we move on from the Dolphins, though, I do want to throw to some sound we have of Mike McDaniel talking about Tua Tagovailoa and his status as the team's starting quarterback this week.
We play the players that give us the best chance to win, and when that changes, or if that changes, or if somebody else gives us a better shot, then we adjust there.
So that is Mike McDaniel kind of telegraphing that Tua's on the hot seat a little bit.
Thanks. Appreciate it, Mike. That was a non-answer, and it was also an answer at the same time. Thanks. We appreciate it, Mike. What are they going to do? What is benching Tua really going to improve your chances? I don't think so, personally.
No, but it it creates a fracture. It creates just even more obvious schism that I've been picking up on. And look, it doesn't take Sherlock Holmes to pick up on this. Like some of the insiders who seem to be pushing the Mike McDaniel agenda and blaming everything on Tua, and last year at the end of the year it seemed to be a little bit like a Cold War or some disagreement between the two. It's just interesting. And our guy Ian put it out there that, yeah, like if he doesn't play well, we could see Quinn Ewers or Zach Wilson before the end of the season. Wow.
That is a dark future.
Because I think they are just in a fire sale mode now. That's what the Chris Greer firing says. And we'll move on from the Dolphins, but I do just want to say Chris Greer, firing him was the most overdue sea change for an organization that has been stuck in one mindset of thinking for almost 2.5 decades. Chris Greer has been there since his father, Bobby Greer, was still in the NFL, helping to run the Patriots with Pete Carroll. Chris Greer is part of the Parcells tree, essentially. And so it's a connection. And I know Parcells wasn't there when Greer first got there, but from Parcells when he was running the team to Jeff Ireland, Greer was there around then, to Mike Tannenbaum, and Greer was there with him then, and eventually outlast. So it's been this. Stephen Ross was always obsessed with Parcells as like a New York guy, because that's where Ross, like, it's been like this Parcells tree for 20 years. They just need someone that thinks different. So just get a new guy in there. Let's do some quick NFL news before we talk the trade stuff. I did just want to circle back that Jaden Daniels could potentially return this season, according to Ian Rappaport. It wasn't quite as severe as they first believed, a dislocated elbow, but he will be out for a significant amount of time. And you have to wonder, depending on where the Commanders are, when they when he is ready to play again, whether it will be worth it. So we'll see if he ends up playing again this year. It won't be easier for them because they don't have Marshawn Lattimore for the rest of the year, a torn ACL, and Luke McCaffrey has a broken collarbone. It is just brutal. Dan Quinn spoke on Monday about something we talked about on Sunday night's show, Nick, about why was Jaden Daniels still in that game?
I know many of you have been asking about the thought process of Jaden being in the game in that situation. And I get that. I've been thinking about it, honestly, nonstop too. And, for me, the answer is, man, I missed it.
Interesting. You don't normally hear a coach say that the next day. I'm surprised. What do you think?
I mean, I tried to give him a little bit of grace last night when we talked about it and saying like, oh, well, maybe he wanted to see what they could build, for the next week. But you're right. Like, it's not often that a coach, takes accountability and full ownership for something like that. But I think in the aftermath of what was perceived to be such a significant injury, and also just the worst possible outcome for a team that has already just been, well, not the worst possible, but one of the worst possible outcomes for a team that has been ravaged by injury. What else can he do there other than admit that, yeah, I probably should have taken him out. That's on me. Good on him. Good on Dan. He's a veteran at the coaching ranks. He's seen the mountaintop. He's seen, the opposite. And right now he's somewhere stuck in between.
Yeah, it might be. He's very emotionally intelligent, I think. And it just might be something where, he's talked with his bosses and ownership and maybe knows how they feel. He's obviously concerned for the young man who is the most important guy in the entire franchise, Jaden Daniels, and wants to do everything possible to support him, and wants to take accountability and show, like, even though Jaden Daniels would probably disagree because he's a competitor, and that's why he was trying to get that touchdown. Like, he wants to be out there. I think that's good on Dan Quinn for kind of being man enough to admit that in that moment, and it's going to be tough for him managing the next few weeks and really the rest of this season after such a great first season. Just some quickie news items before we get back to the trades. Dayo Odengbo is out for the season. Pass rusher for the Bears that got a ton of money was starting. Your boy Kevin Stefanski gave up play calling now to Tommy Reese, which is surprising. He's always been a good play caller, so I don't know about that. Josh Simmons is back with the Chiefs, their rookie tackle, and the serious injuries that we thought happened on Sunday were all confirmed. Tucker Kraft of the Packers, Michael Williams of the 49ers, and Michael Hoyt of the Bills all going to be out for the season, so really disappointing. Let's get back to the trade talk, though. Okay, we'll wrap up the show here. I look at Waddle as a potential guy. I think Breece Hall is more likely. The thing with the Jets, though, is they could just decide to franchise tag him next year. And so when I look at the rest of the list of possible guys, it's a lot of guys like one that was traded on Monday, and that was Draymond Jones. It's going to be guys traded for 5th-round picks that can be upgraded to a 4th, and that's what Draymond Jones was for the Ravens. Fills a totally important need for them. They just need another body as a pass rusher. He'd been playing well for the Titans. He's a big guy, kind of fits that scheme. That's probably the level of trades that we'll see on Tuesday if we see any. It's probably not going to be like a lot of Trey Hendrickson and Jalen Waddle, but we can hope for that.
Yeah, of course, because that makes the headline. Draymond Jones has a sack in each of his last 4 games. Had a season-high 1.5 sacks in the loss to the Chargers. Had like a stretch of 2 plays in a row where he just like destroyed their offensive line and blew up a Chargers drive. He's playing really well. He's been in multiple stops in his career. He spent some time in Seattle, was in Tennessee for half of the season. And it's the type of trade that is a little bit lower on the prestige scale for the Ravens than we typically see, because like, this is a team that in the offseason will go get a DeAndre Hopkins, or they'll go get a veteran who wants to latch on to chase a ring. But I think it's very important because, like you said, they need bodies. They've suffered a lot of injuries up front. They have looked better defensively recently, but I think that they're going to need those types of reinforcements down the road. Now, I'm thinking again about lower level trade guys, and I'm going to keep it in the division real quick here, Greg.
Okay.
What do we think? The Bengals, the worst defense in the NFL, a team that just crumbled in heartbreaking fashion so much that they had offensive players criticizing them in the postgame, sound in the locker room. Logan Wilson has fallen out of the lineup there. They are clearly going younger. What does he fetch? Does anybody want to make a call on him?
I think he could go to the Colts specifically for like a 6th or 7th round pick swap. I mean, to me, he has no value, essentially. I mean, if Keon White can only get that, and Kyle Duggar, that's the most that they should get for Logan Wilson. It's just someone to pay that salary. The crazy thing is the Bengals are so like anti making these sort of moves in the season, even if it makes sense for them. It might not even happen. But yeah, there's a couple linebackers available, him and Pete Werner. I have heard our friend Adam on the Saints Block Party podcast mention that, some teams have been calling about Pete Werner, but, maybe it's a question of like Mickey Loomis doesn't even want to necessarily trade the guys he has because he overvalues them and he wants a higher pick than you would expect. But I do think the Saints, more than just about any team, would make sense to make some trades, whether it was Alontae Taylor, a pretty talented cornerback in the last year of his contract. That would make some sense. Rashid Shaheed, you'd actually get something good for Rashid Shaheed. I don't know if the Saints should be trading a guy like him, but he would make some sense. I can't see them trading Cam Jordan, or it just doesn't make sense after all the time that he's been there. But Pete Werner is a guy I could see. Juwan Johnson, would a team want him? I don't think so with his contract.
I'm trying. Yeah, I mean, a lot of these guys feel like Saints-specific fits. Like, I think I've always undervalued Pete Werner from when he was at Ohio State into his NFL career. But he feels very much like a guy who thrives in New Orleans and really thrived in Dennis Allen's scheme more than he does now. So I don't know if the interest is going to be worth, like the return is going to be worth moving him. And I think you're right about like, do you want to trade some of the guys that you have already when you're still trying to turn this thing around? I do wonder, could Shaheed be a good fit for the Bills as a field stretcher? Because he kind of almost falls in the same profile as like who they have in that roster. Like that could be a trade I could see being made.
Ooh, that is a good one. I mean, I think Rashid Shaheed is underrated, undervalued. He's gotten better. I was going to compare him to Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce is getting so good right now that I think that's actually underdoing what Alec Pierce is doing in a free agency year. We're doing some awards tomorrow, and I was thinking of doing like a what contract year guy has made himself the most money award. And man, Alec Pierce is up there. That's a long way of saying I still think Rashid Shaheed in a Marquez Valdez-Scantling plus role is really valuable. In a Christian Watson
There you go.
Plus
There you
roll
go.
even.
Yeah,
Okay, I got there in the end.
that's better.
He could help a lot of teams out there. The other news I didn't mention, and I want to mention in context of the possible trades, is Joe Alt is going to miss the rest of the season now. Devastating news. Their team was so different when he was on the field to when he wasn't. It's just, you just don't see that too often unless the guy is like a star quarterback or Micah Parsons. That's how important Joe Alt was. It really bums me out. It makes me just lower their ceiling. If I think they could maybe make the playoffs because Herbert's playing so well. They're well coached. There's a lot of talented people on the team. But if they had all, I don't know. Like, could they have won that division? Could they have made like a longer playoff run, won some playoff games, you know, in a pretty wide open AFC? I wasn't counting that out. I kind of counted out with Joe Alt. So is there any possible tackle trade they could possibly make? Like, I don't know what that would be. That is tough to do, but it did make me think because of the timing, could the Chargers make a trade like that?
Yeah. You know, after getting this news today, I ran back that game and I keyed in on Alt just because I wanted to see, like, how different was it? And it was remarkably different. Like, first off, he's a great one-on-one blocker, and he's so stout. But it's also his ability to pick up stunts, pick up, you know, different things that the defense is doing, and just being a reliable, solid blindside blocker. And as soon as he was gone, it was immediately magnified. I think that there was a sack on the very next play when Salyer replaced him. They gave up a season-high 6 sacks in this game. They're already dealing with multiple losses at tackle because they lost Rashawn Slater to start the year. Alt had to kick over from right to left side. They lost Bobby Hart in that game. They had to go back to Trey Pipkins. Like, they are at the bottom of the depth chart at the position. And so when this news dropped today and I was writing it up, I was thinking, God, who could they trade for? And offensive line is not like receiver. It's not like cornerback. No. Once you get past the starters, the quality drops off. Like, the Browns made a move for Cam Robinson, and he has not been very good for them when he's been on the field.
You
and
know
that
what
was
would
a
be
guy
funny is if the Chargers traded for Cam Robinson.
I mean, you're going to have to pay for more than the Browns paid for him, but I could see that happening. There's just not a lot of options out there.
Could be his 4th team in 2 years, and his like 3rd time that
you're
he's
the midseason mercenary, Cam Robinson.
Some comments here. We'll roll through them. Greg has kind eyes, to be honest. Thank you very much. I really
what does that mean?
appreciate
Does that mean that like
one.
you have a warm heart?
I don't know. I think I might just might be allergies. Another comment that they like NFL Daily from the Around the NFL days. Yeah, we appreciate everyone who's been with us throughout. It's different. It was really great, like, meeting so many people in Ireland and in the UK, especially, that were like, you know, talking about their relationship with Around the NFL and that they love NFL Daily now, and Jordan and Shook and Patrick, and they love Heed the Call, and it's really cool that everyone's been with us on that journey. And let's actually get a question for Shook here, one that I would like to get answered. What is Shookie's squat PR?
It was like low 400s in my peak. I have not squatted consistently for the last 5 years because I had a back injury that makes loading the spine real rough on me. But at my peak, it was probably about 405.
Time comes for everyone.
Yeah.
That's true, especially of offensive linemen. How about that transition? Just a couple other names I'm going to throw out there. Do the Browns have any offensive linemen available? Does Joel Bitonio? He probably wouldn't even want to move, but would Joel Bitonio or Ethan Pochik or Wyatt Teller, you know, could they ever be available? How about Kevin Zeitler, former Brown, now on the Titans? Like, there could be moves in terms of interior offensive linemen. I think that would make a lot of sense. And
you know what? I have an idea.
Who are the teams that wouldn't need that? You know what I mean? Like the Chargers, the Chiefs, like everyone could use an interior offensive lineman.
I think that the Browns' succession plan at right guard is going to be Zach Zinter replacing Joel Bitonio when Joel decides to retire. I don't think he's available. I don't think Wyatt Teller's available. Posick, maybe. I don't know. But I also wonder, like, could Zinter be available? Like, could they move him if they get the right price? I don't know.
Sure. Njoku would make sense maybe for a team that's looking for another tight end. We're seeing all these 2 tight end sets. It's really going crazy. I noticed it tonight, you know, with the Cardinals using their 6 offensive linemen. The league has gotten pretty wild with it lately, where even teams that weren't doing it the first half of the season are suddenly overdosing in 6 offensive linemen. And I was thinking about it, and I was like, did Alec Anderson on the Bills like kind of change the shape of the NFL this year? Because we would talk about it. Ollie Connolly talked about it a lot. Like that 6 offensive lineman look for the Bills last year was like the most efficient play in football. And this year they don't even use it because they just have a tight end to be that 6 offensive lineman. It's Spencer Haas. But you see so many teams doing it and throwing out of it, and it's been really effective for a lot of teams out there. So Dan Skipper, I'm not saying Alec Anderson's the first ever 6th offensive lineman. It's been happening throughout the course of NFL history, but particularly last year, the Bills got tons of explosive plays in it. And so we're seeing it everywhere.
What's cool too is it's beyond, like, you usually would see it on the goal line. Like, for example, the Browns used defensive tackle Aiden Huntington, Tulane guy, roll wave. In goal line situations, they would use a guard, I think Nick Harris, a backup center, they would use as like a 6th lineman or as a blocking fullback. But now it's being deployed all over the field, which is just an example of how we could say the NFL is a pass first league, but it can also evolve in a number of different ways as the minds, continue to get more and more involved in the pushing the game forward. And it's fun to watch.
Yeah, they had Beachum in motion tonight on one running play. That's like a 300.
That's a Trent Williams special right there. That's a Kyle Shanahan move.
320-pound guy. And for the most part, these teams are really doing it to set up some explosive pass plays to the tight ends. We'll see what happens in terms of the trade market. Maybe the Bills get a pass rusher or a cornerback. I could see that potentially happening. I think the Patriots are very thin at a lot of defensive positions. I could see them just going for like a depth piece, and then I really think the Chiefs should go get Breece Hall. To me, that's the Chiefs trade. It's such a Chiefs trade. They would be so freaking fast. They need a running back. Their running backs, it's not good. I mean, they're making it work, but it would be so much better with a better back. It shouldn't be that hard to find a good back. Breece Hall to the Chiefs for a third. Who says no?
I'm on board. Do it, Chiefs. Why not? You're chasing a title. That's a title chasing move right there.
We're always chasing titles. We're trying to be the best NFL Daily we can be, and we appreciate everyone that is listening. We also appreciate Howie Roseman. So if you remember, a while ago, he was the guy who delivered, which was presented by Uber Eats, and it's just a reminder that who delivered by. Presented by Uber Eats. When football makes you hungry, you get game day deals on Uber Eats. It's the official on-demand delivery partner of the NFL. I know it's late on the East Coast, but you can order now. It's open all night, and who knows? You might be elsewhere listening. Shook, we'll see you on Thursday night. I hope you have a great week, and we'll talk a little Raiders Broncos then, and we'll spice up that show and make it even more interesting. We do have a bunch of shows this week, some extra shows. We're going to do a trade deadline recap, and we're going to put that up as soon as we can after the trade deadline. And we're also doing an extra awards show talking MVP, but also giving out some of our own awards. So stay tuned in the feed. Big week. I also getting back together with Daniel Jeremiah a little later in the week. It's going to be a lot of fun. Keep it locked on NFL Daily. We will see you on the other side of the trade deadline. Yeah, trade deadline eve. Get some sleep.